I did it. I finally did it. I beat Alan Wake. And you might be asking why I'm celebrating beating an 11-hour game that's been out for 11 years. Well, it's been on my list of games to play for 11 years. Which was long enough that, in fact, I completely forgot about its existence. I was distracted by a shiny new game that you might have heard of. It's called The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. It wasn't until Control came out that Alan Wake was back on the agenda, and even that's not entirely true, because I didn't even beat Control until that game was a year and a half old. Oh, well, would you look at that? A fancy new review on Control right over there in this conveniently placed link. In the description, that is. Pretty much what it comes down to is, I played Control, I liked it quite a bit, so I played the Alan Wake-inspired DLC. Then after that, I said, hey, this game's pretty good. I like what Alan Wake has going for it from this here DLC. Maybe I should get into the source material for this sweet, supple lore. And then my fiance said, don't ever say supple and lore in the same sentence again, but by that time I was already looking to buy the game, and yeah, that's right. In 11 years' time, I had never actually bought the game. Shame on me. Nowadays, you can catch it on sale for less than a Little Caesars pizza. Would you get to the game already? Yes, I was just getting there. Alan Wake is a fine piece of art, but I gotta say, I'm kinda depressed now. It's still worth playing, though. It's the kind of sad where you are indeed upset, but you're glad that a story was able to make you feel something at all. That, in addition to the hole you feel in your life right after you start getting attached to a game and its characters, and then it's ripped away from you and you realize that there's no more left to experience. It's like what they say about broken hearts. It's better to have loved and lost than to have never loved at all, or some such words as the like, and as those, speaking about love, this game is really about... Hold it, what about the spoilers? The game is 11 years old. I'm not worried about spoilers. Either you're going to play it or you're not. Hell, you could even watch the whole thing on YouTube and get the gist. It's not like you'll even be hurting the company. They're not making any more money on it. Anyway, without any more interruptions... Speaking about love, this game is really about... Can we get a summary first? If you insist...
I insist.
Alan Wake is the famous writer of a famous book series. He's grumpy, and he's moody, and he's tired of dealing with the burden of his own success and suffering from a bout of writer's block, so he takes a vacation with his beloved wife, Alice, to the remote town of Bright Falls, Washington, and upon receiving the keys to their lodge from a rather not at all suspicious or evil-looking, "You get that slimy-ass hand away from me before I call my mom woman in funeral clothes," they head to the lodge on Cauldron Lake. And, surprise, it turns out she is
darkness incarnate.
She takes Alice to the bottom of the lake, where the darkness is impenetrable. Oh, and, by the way, Alice is terrified of the dark, so go figure, right? The Dark Presence holds Alice hostage while Alan Wake is forced to write a new manuscript. The catch is, everything Al writes comes true. Using this ability to her advantage, she influences Alan to bend reality to increase her power. And here's where we start getting really meta. Al writes himself into the story, and he writes a way out of his trance in order to stop the Dark Presence and save his wife. And thus begins the story of Alan Wake. I don't want to go through the whole plot, mostly for time's sake, but I will give you a real quick breakdown. Alan fights through the town proper, the outskirts, and the surrounding forests of Bright Falls. There's twists and turns, just like a good mystery novel, and in the end, Alice is freed, but Al must sacrifice himself to be a captive of the Dark Presence. So now that I've given a brief synopsis, I can finally get to what the game is really about. What about the gameplay? Oh, for fuck's sake, fine, the gameplay. It's pretty good, I'd say. Not spectacular in terms of controls, but that might be my fault for playing on mouse and keyboard. They take the idea of light versus darkness and they really ingrain it into the combat and the puzzle solving. The dark acts as an impenetrable shield that must be banished with light before you can hurt enemies or pass through areas. And this manifests itself in gameplay as a 1-2 punch. You gotta shine your light on the enemies to break the shield, and then you gotta kill them with a slightly more conventional weapon than a flashlight, that some people call a gun. The main enemies in this game are the Taken, which are, for the most part, real people that have been corrupted by the Dark Presence. Wait a minute. Taken? Darkness? Where have I heard that before? Oh, of course Bungie's best expansion for Destiny has concepts and names literally ripped from Alan Wake. Anyway, that corrupting force has power over objects like doors, barrels, and the occasional tractor. This becomes problematic, to say the least. There's a few more basic ideas mixed in here that I want to tell you before I dive any deeper. Standing in the light acts as a safe zone that gives you a checkpoint and banishes all the Taken to the Shadow Realm. Well, they might actually like that, considering they are literally made of darkness. And there's some weapons other than the oft-wielded flashlight and gun combo. You have a small variety, 3 to be exact, of big guns to choose from. There's also flashbangs, flares, and a flare gun, all acting as tools that you can use for different enemy types and crowd control. As bare bones as this game is, in terms of basic gameplay mechanics, I really appreciate everything that they do with them. They really squeeze every drop of content out of these concepts, and it just so happens that they stay fresh pretty much the whole time. They do a really good job of controlling ammo flow throughout the level to force you into using different combinations of weapons than you're used to. And they vary enemy types and distributions in each encounter in order to keep you on your toes, making you adapt and optimize your strategy each time. They'll throw a horde of enemies at you, and as you desperately try and manage being surrounded, a few objects will start flying around, an unmanned car tries to run you over, and a flock of crows tries to murder you. I guess it would be better to say a murder of crows flocks to you. Either way, you have a split second to dodge an axe being thrown at your head, run out of the way just in time as the tractor blazes by you. You shine your light in a wide arc, blinding and slowing down the rapidly approaching enemies. Use a flare gun to knock the crows out of the sky, a flashbang to quickly eliminate several smaller enemies, and then pop a flare to buy yourself some breathing room as you frantically mash the reload button before the next onslaught. Come to think of it, I think I like the combat more than I let on. It often perfectly rides the line between frantic and manageable, making each encounter satisfying. I'd say that's all the important bits about the gameplay, and without further ado, we can finally discuss what this game is really about. Unless there's any more, interruptions? I have to come clean about something. There were never any real interruptions. Like Alan Wake, I wrote those people into existence, in my script, so that I could avoid talking about what this game is really about. Truth be told, I'm not really sure what this game's message is, because there's just so many ways to dissect it. At face value, it's a really cool story about a writer's story coming true and then the writer using that story to rescue his wife. But it's so much more than that. It's a story about the internal struggle of a writer as he works to balance his family and his work. It's a cautionary tale about the dangers of being too successful and getting swept up in something you've created. It's about the creative process and living up to other people's expectations, where sometimes, in order to achieve your full potential, you have to lose yourself to a dark place and put yourself through hell. It's about the struggle between the light and dark, and that those scales need to be balanced. For the light to succeed, the dark must also be satiated. It's about being the light in somebody else's life even though you're in a dark place. It's about love of several kinds. The kind where you'll do anything to protect another person. The kind that comes from a pride in your community. The kind that comes from a friend who will always come through for you, and the sweet but sometimes obsessive love of a fan who has met their idol. It's all this, and so much more, and frankly,
A little heavy on the metaphors, maybe.
so watch it, or play it, because it is a rather profound experience. See what you get out of it. Each of those themes are thoroughly embedded in the story, but it's up to each individual observer to determine which one speaks to them personally. Also, that part at the farm on the rock stage where you have to fend off hordes of Taken while listening to a banger by the old gods of Asgard was really fucking awesome. It reminds me of the Ashtray Maze. Wonder if all of Remedy's games have something like that. I guess I'll just have to play Quantum Break here soon and find out. And with that, it's time to end today's video. I sincerely hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please give it a like, but more importantly, drop a comment down there and tell me what your favorite story game is. Or tell me what I could do better. Or just say hi. I mean, really, I just want to talk to people. And if you're interested in seeing more, be sure to subscribe, because I've been uploading every 2 weeks and I intend to keep it that way. I've also got plans to start streaming next month, so that'll be fun. So I'll be seeing y'all later then. Bye-bye.